Week 5. Starting with Travis Etienne. He is playing the Bills in London. Jaguars have back-to-back London games. And Etienne, coming off a big week, he's really just, honestly, Jay, had a big season. He tops the love list.
He is. It's kind of annoying that he's giving up some goal line carries to Mr. Bigsby. But outside of that, I mean, he's really giving you everything that you'd want. You look at most running back touches per game. Christian McCaffrey on top. Zach Moss, as predicted preseason, is second with Dave Montgomery. And then Travis Etienne is fifth. So I think that it's been a good season for Etienne so far. And he's getting work in the passing game, which was the question mark coming in. You'd like to see more touchdowns, just the one so far. But I think it's the Jags. Their offense will get better. They'll convert a third down once this season eventually. And Etienne, I think he's got a lot of upside the rest of the way.
I'm glad you mentioned the passing game usage because he's had actually a double-digit target share in 3 out of 4 games so far this year. Bills allow the 4th most receiving yards to opposing running backs. So we'll see whether Zay Jones plays or not, but maybe they could try to take advantage of that with Travis Etienne in a game in which we expect the Jaguars to have to throw to keep up with Buffalo.
Yep, and I think that he will have scoring opportunities because it's a weird thing to talk about, but like anyone who's taken a plane from here to Europe the first couple of days, you know how bad you feel? That's a real thing that impacts these NFL players and impacts the line, and I think that the Jags have more of a shot in this game than people expect.
They've been there. They've been there, you know, for a whole week as well. So Etienne's running back 7 for me this week, locked in RB1.
Yep. The next one here, Barry, Devon Achane. Normally when a guy
Achane?
Achane, I'm never going to let it go. Said it for about Texas A&M for 2 years.
I know.
Did it a whole summer.
I'm with you.
It's going to take me a long time. I'm sorry,
Achane.
Devon Achane.
Achane.
Yeah, it's like if Matthew has a really good show today and then he asks everyone to call him Matthew Barry.
Barry.
Yeah.
Barry.
Barry.
Matthew Barry.
There we go.
Yeah.
Very
That's
fitting
right.
with no way.
Matthew won't have a good show.
Achane.
He won't have a good
Yes.
show, so
Yeah,
don't have to
no,
worry
I
about
won't.
it.
We got no. Yeah, exactly. By the way, I've been told in my ear, producer Adam Wise is the one who's responsible for the time code. So anyway, so YouTube commenters, shout out to Adam Wise. There you go. He's the one who puts it on the podcast and on the YouTube feed.
Listen, normally when a player has 6 touchdowns in 2 weeks, you'd say, well, that's not sustainable for very long. Here's the thing with Achane, Barry. He has the Giants this week, which is a big reason he makes the love list as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Giants make a lot of things sustainable. A lot of things that are not normally sustainable, they make them sustainable. They've allowed a rushing touchdown to a running back in every game this season. The New York Football Giants have as well. And so Devon Achane, or Achane, as some of our producers on this show call him, has had 11 red zone touches over the last 2 weeks, compared with just 5 for Raheem Mostert. Mostert, of course, had the bad fumbles last week as well. And so Achane, you pick however you want to rephrase him, just make sure he's in your lineup. He's my running back 12 this week. I like the fact that he's also getting involved in the passing game, a 14% target share in both games. We like the Miami Dolphins in this one as well. So, yeah, not a fluke. And this is the first week that I've had Achane ranked ahead of friend of the show, Raheem Mostert.
Yep. The line's should be bigger than 11 for this game. It should
agree.
be 13.5. Should be almost 14. Has anyone watched the New York Giants? How are they going to stay within 2 touchdowns of the Dolphins? Guys like Achane are almost an afterthought on this team. Like he had 8 carries last week. I think that Achane as well. The thing is that Mostert had the 2 fumbles last week, which I think is really key, and it was trending towards Achane's backfield anyway. So a lot of upside for Achane, who is the number 1 running back in the league by PFF grade at the moment. Which is what happens when you just run for 10 yards a carry.
I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, like, it's just like, you know, you're like, well, he's not getting the work. You know, he's getting single-digit carries. And you're like, yeah, because everything's like 40 yards, so it doesn't. Miami, the game's in Miami. Here's the other thing is, to your point about the line, the game's in Miami. I don't know. I don't love teams like on a 1 o'clock game, especially early in the season when they've had a Saturday night in Miami. Like
short week as
well. They're traveling on a short week because they played the Monday night game.
Harder to back it up after the short week.
Exactly. They're all doing shots at 11. Who knows what's going on down there? But the fact is that this is a team that, you know, just. I use the word played. They played on Monday night. I use that in air quotes.
They were present for the game.
They were present for the game. They were active for the game. But, you know, who knows? Maybe that's why Brian Daboll missed the Brian Daboll show, is because he was busy crunching the film, trying to figure out a way to getting ready to try to figure out how
or he
to
was looking
attack
for
these
Evan
Miami
Neal
Dolphins.
somewhere after Evan Neal's comments on the fan base. But anyways, our last running back firmly locked into the love list here, Jay, is Joe Mixon. And, you know, as things have not gone well for the Bengals. The bottom line is Joe Mixon gets all the volume in this backfield. He's got 86% of the team's running back touches this season.
Well, I think that's the hope for Mixon, is that he has 59 carries. The next highest running back on the Bengals is Travion Williams with 4. Right. So it's entirely his backfield. It's just that the offense has been terrible and he's only gotten in the end zone once. I would still be a buyer in the Bengals just getting better as the season goes on. You still have to trust in the talent. I understand T. Higgins is banged up. It's still Burrow. It's still Chase going up against the suspect defense. There's been plucky in Arizona, but this isn't the 49ers defense. I would expect that Mixon should get closer to the end zone this week.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, like, to your point about Higgins and the passing, like, they're just going to lean on this guy as well. Every starting running back that's faced the Cardinals this year has gotten at least 20 touches per game. Like, you can run on Arizona. They allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing running backs as well. So they're bad against running backs. Joe Mixon's going to get a big workload, i.e. ipso facto. Therefore, Mixon makes the love list. He's a top 14 fantasy running back for me. Bingo, bango. It's science.
How about some others receiving votes here?
I believe I used it in its proper context.
Yes.
Ipso facto.
Isaiah Pacheco against the Vikings. Brian Robinson Jr. tonight against the Bears. Breece Hall against the Broncos. I really think this is the week the Jets finally take the training wheels off of Breece's injury and let him go.
No more snap count.
No more snap count. Tajay Spears against the Colts and Jaleel McLaughlin against the Jets. A bit of a waiver wire darling this week, Barry.
Yeah, I mean, look, I have Brian Robinson and Pacheco as top 16 plays. We'll talk about Brian Robinson later in the show as well. But just, it's worth noting that the Bears have allowed at least 17 fantasy points to a running back in every game this year. Robinson is the guy for my Commanders. Hail the Commanders, hail victory. Isaiah Pacheco has 40 touches over the past 2 weeks. He runs angry. Taylor Swift is a huge fan. You saw her cheering after Pacheco's. Who knew she was such a big Pacheco fan? But she clearly is. He's starting to get involved in the passing game as well. You mentioned Breece Hall as well. Denver has allowed the most fantasy points to opposing running backs. And so I think Saleh saying that, which is weird. We sort of knew. He said earlier that he wasn't on a pitch count, but then he kind of was, and you could sort of tell. And I feel like that's kind of a bat signal. I feel like that was less for the press and more for Breece.
Right.
Like just saying, like, hey, man.
Be mentally ready.
Be mentally ready. This is your week.
Yeah. Dalvin Cook's look bad.
Yes.
They need Breece really badly, and this is finally the week they're going to lean on him.
A bet I really like in that game, Breece Hall, longest rush over 15.5 yards. He's going to break one against the Broncos.
15.5.
Yeah, 15.5. He's going to get one 16-yard carry. He's going to get, 15 to 17 carries, I would have thought, on average. So. And I think he'll break one against the Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, again, they've also I wish he could do it on receptions too. I wonder what his reception prop is because they give up the second most receiving yards to opposing running backs. The Broncos do as well. So interesting to look there. Just real quickly on Tajay Spears. He's played over 50% of the snaps in 3 or 4 games. Like, again, with 4 teams on a bye, if you're in a 12-team league, you might be desperate. So Tajay Spears, I mean, again, I'm at running back 34. Let's not get crazy, but just like I think he could be potentially useful in a flex desperate way if you have a lot of guys on bye. And then McLaughlin, I'm at running back 38. Again, I'm not expecting Javonte Williams to play, but that situation will become more clear. But Jets, in addition to the Broncos, the Jets are also bottom 5 in terms of most receptions allowed to opposing running backs. McLaughlin has been a big part of their passing game so far this year. We expect that to continue, especially if Javonte Williams is out.
Let's jump into the hate list. Jay, this is led by Rhamondre Stevenson. For Barry this week, he comes in as RB22. For Rhamondre on the season, he's averaging under 3 yards per carry. And here's the eye test. He does not look like Rhamondre Stevenson from last year.
No, he doesn't. And he was banged up all the second half of last year. I'm not sure if there's a health thing at the moment or it's just the Patriots offense and all its blandness has just engulfed him. But yeah, I wouldn't want any part of this Patriots offense at the moment. That was just an abominable display. What a depressing game. Patriots-Saints. Just 2 kind of grimly competent teams. Not much offense going on. And look, Rhamondre, you'd hope that he'd get more work in the receiving game. In the first game of the season against the Eagles, he got 6 targets and 6 receptions. He hasn't topped 3 receptions since then. And Zeke is still looming. Zeke got a lot of work the week prior. So it just hasn't happened for Rhamondre.
And that's the biggest thing is that we always thought, well, at least the floor is there because the passing game worked, Jay. But just as you point out, like in terms of the receptions, he's also had 3 straight games with 10 or fewer receiving yards. He's not getting the receiving work. He's not getting big plays. 2.7 yards per carry so far this season. That is 40th out of 44 qualified running backs. Like, he's bottom 5 in yards per carry this season. Saints have allowed the 7th fewest rushing yards to running backs through 4 weeks this season. So Rhamondre Stevenson, who's been under 65 total yards in 5 of the last 7 games dating back to last year in a bad matchup with New Orleans, outside my top 20 this week.
Yep.
Another running back averaging under 3 yards per carry this season is Miles Sanders. Barry, another running back that doesn't make your top 20 this week in the rankings, and they're going to Detroit.
We don't know how healthy he is with a groin issue. He played only 43% of the snaps last week, and now some of that may have been, the fact that he was dealing with that groin injury. Some of it just may have been he's been ineffectual. Honestly, the only thing in this offense that you really feel good about, and I'm using that loosely, is Adam Thielen. Again, Bryce Young does. I wonder if the Carolina Panthers had it to do over, whether they would rather have C.J. Stroud.
Goes one now, surely.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
it feels like after 3 games. Listen.
Right, it's early.
Bryce, it's early. Bryce missed a game as well. Stroud, I think, weirdly has more weapons to work with than Bryce Young.
That's
which
factual. Yes.
No, I know, but
Yeah.
I think at the beginning of the season you didn't
Right.
think about that. You didn't think that. But not a great matchup with the Lions, who allow under 50 rushing yards per game to running backs this season. That's second best in the NFL. And so Sanders, who's had 3 straight games with under 45 rushing yards and feels like this is becoming more of a committee with him and Chuba Hubbard. It's not an explosive offense that we feel like will be in scoring position often. So, yeah, Miles Sanders outside my top 20. Even if he's healthier this year and gets more of a workload, you don't love the matchup, and it's not like this is a team that we expect to be scoring a ton.
No, certainly not. And the one thing is that he does randomly have 23 targets in 4 games,
Yeah,
where it seems
they are
like
dumping off to
they've got nowhere to throw down the field, so they need to dump off. The other problem, though, is that the Lions' defense looks like it might be legitimately good. Aiden Hutchinson has made a huge leap. He's a legit Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Brian Branch has come in and been great from the get-go. That is a very solid defense. We saw what they did to Green Bay.
But, the Lions, by the way, are 10-point favorites so far at the moment in this game, and the over-under is 44.5. So, DraftKings is not expecting them to score a lot of points, the Carolina Panthers, right? Just in terms of the implied totals there.
Yep.
So.
Our last one here, Jay, Najee Harris against the Ravens. He comes in as RB30 for Berry, and the bottom line is the Ravens have been stingy against running backs this season. They are the only team to not allow a rushing touchdown on the year.
Yep, and we saw what the Ravens did to the Browns, who have a very strong offensive line, just couldn't get anything done on the ground. And now, whether it's Mitch Trubisky, whether it's Kenny Pickett, this Steelers offensive line has been terrible this season. There's just nowhere to run, and I understand there are the concerns about Jaylen Warren. I don't think either of these guys really have a chance against this defense with this offensive line.
Ravens only team in the NFL not to allow a rushing touchdown to a running back so far this season. He's averaging 7.1 fantasy points per game this year. He's had 1 game with double-digit points. This year, 53% snap rate. 0 games above 57%. He's not involved in the passing game as all. And as we talk about, I wonder if the Panthers regret passing on C.J. Stroud to draft Bryce Young. My question is, Jay, do you regret drafting Najee Harris for your team in our league? Do you regret talking up that draft pick?
Took him in the 6th round when his ADP was like 29 or something, but that's fine. Yeah, bad pick to get a guy 30 spots after
He's
his
getting
ADP.
you 7 points a game.
Regardless
of where you
second
got
half
him
of the year.
Regardless of ADP, I'm just curious, do you regret the draft pick?
No, I don't, Matthew. It was a great pick at the time. It's just Najee hasn't delivered on the goods. And I was also lambasted for my Nico Collins pick about 5 rounds later. So good for you to bring that up in conjunction with Najee.
I didn't trash Nico Collins because I think I said I liked it. I trashed the idea that you have 3 Texans on your team.
Hey, the Texans are a team to buy.
Actually, that one's
look who's smart.
Yeah,
You're an innovator
who's the
on
other
that
one? You had
one.
Nico Collins,
Dalton
Schultz.
Schultz.
Who's the other one? Schultz is terrible. Nico was good. So you went 1 for 2.
The problem is the other one was Devon Singletary, I think.
Yeah, so right, you're 1 for 3.
Forgot he was around.
You're 1 for 3. It was good to target the Texans. You just targeted the wrong ones.
Yeah,
but you got Nico. You got Nico, so
Give him a team of flight.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.